Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to National Payroll Week, the quiz. My name is Alice, and I'm also joined by Duncan. We're going to be hosting and presenting the session this morning. Now, this is our last webinar for National Payroll Week, just a bit of fun to end the week. And we do have 3 rounds of questions and some interesting facts throughout the session as well. We have been running a series of webinars this week. I think we've had 5. So any of you who have attended at least 3 out of the 5 will be earning your very own National Payroll Week digital badge. And also everyone participating in today's session, the quiz, you will be entered into a prize draw for the chance to win a beautiful hamper. T's and C's do apply, but of course you can read more about them on the link there. And a little reminder of how to answer the questions as well. So we will be launching a poll on our side. You'll be able to select your answer and then just make sure that you click submit as well. You'll have around 1 minute to submit your answer. And then after we've asked the questions in each round, we'll show the poll results to see what you all thought and then reveal the correct answers to each question. We've also put in some payroll related anagrams as well, so stay tuned for those throughout the session. But without further ado, it is time to pass over to Duncan, who's going to be taking you through round 1 of National Payroll Week, the quiz. So it's over to you, Duncan.
Thank you very much, Alice. So round 1 is focused around the webinar that we ran on Tuesday of this week, Understanding Payslips, a Beginner's Guide to Payroll. We've got 5 questions in this round, and you'll be answering the questions via the poll, as Alice has just explained. So without further ado, let's get on and ask question 1 of our National Payroll Week, the quiz. So question number 1. Nice and simple to get started. So what does PAYE stand for? So is it Personal Annual Yield Estimate? Is it Personal Allowance Yearly Earnings? Or is it Pay As You Earn? So what does the acronym PAYE stand for? Great. So question 2 of this round, on screen now. Which NI category should be used for employees who are over state pension age? So is that category A? Should they be on category H? Or should these employees be on category C? So which national insurance category should be used for employees over state pension age? On to question 3 of this round. So this one's about tax codes. What does the letter S at the start of a tax code mean? So what does an S prefix at the start of a tax code mean? Does it mean the employee is a Scottish taxpayer? Does it mean they are a seasonal worker? Could it be that they are a student? Or is it that they are a senior citizen? So what does an S prefix at the start of a tax code mean? On to question 4 then. So what is the basic rate of tax in England, Wales and Northern Ireland? So is that basic rate 40%? Is it 18%? Or is the basic rate of tax 20%? What's the basic rate of tax in England, Wales and Northern Ireland? So on to question 5. So on the world's oldest payslip, what were employees thought to be paid in? So were they paid in gold coins? Were they paid in stone? Was it beer? Or was it wine? So if you came to our webinar on Tuesday, you'll have seen the world's oldest payslip. But what were the employees paid in? Gold coins, stone, beer, or wine? So those are your 5 questions for round 1. We're going to go through the answers and we're going to share the polling results so you can see how you did. But as promised, we do have an anagram for each round. So your anagram for this round, and we'll be telling you the answer at the end of the answers to those first 5 questions, is alien enunciators. Alien enunciators, and the clue to that anagram is it's on your payslip. So what could alien enunciators be? You'll find out in a few minutes' time. So let's have a look at the answers to round 1. We'll see how you got on. So first of all, question 1 was, what does PAYE stand for? So let's have a look at the polling results first. Let's see what you thought. And we've got a great result here, in fact. 100% of you said that it stood for pay as you earn. So was that the correct answer? Let's have a look. Of course it was. It's pay as you earn. So nice and easy start to the quiz. On to question 2 then. Which national insurance category should be used for most employees over state pension age? So what did you think on this one? Let's have a look at the answers that came in. So sharing those results, we had 10% of you saying it was category A, 4% saying category H, and 86%, the majority of you, saying category C. So let's have a look at the correct answer. Just hiding the poll again. Correct answer there was indeed category C. So that is where there are employer-only contributions. Once you reach state pension age, you no longer need to pay national insurance. If that employee happened to work in a Freeport or investment zone, they would use the equivalent category of either S or K. Category A is the standard rate contributions, which is for most employees in the UK, and category H was for apprentices under the age of 25. Question 3 then, what does an S prefix at the start of a tax code mean? So let's see what you thought on this one. Again, we had a majority, 91% of you, saying it means you're a Scottish taxpayer, 2% seasonal worker, 7% student, none of you thinking it was senior citizen. So let's see whether you were right on that one. So correct answer is Scottish taxpayer. So it's employees that live in Scotland according to HMRC's records. Typically, the tax code would start with an S, for example, S1257L. In Scotland, they have different income tax bands and rates. So rather than just the standard basic higher rate and additional rate, they have 6 income tax bands, which are starter, basic, intermediate, higher, advanced, and the top rate. So that was the answer to question 3, Scottish taxpayer. On to question 4, what's the basic rate of tax in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland? Let's see how many of you got this one. 95% of you saying 20%, 3% of you say 40%, and 2% are saying 18%. A lot of percents going on there. Let's see what the correct answer was. I think most of you got this one right. It is 20%. That is technically the basic rate in Scotland too. So the basic rate band in Scotland is 20%. They have all those other income tax bands as well, so I didn't want to confuse things. But 20% is your basic rate of tax in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And the last question in this round on the world's oldest payslip, what were employees thought to be paid in? And we have 71% of you saying beer, which was the correct answer. So sounds good to me. That's a picture of the world's oldest payslip. It's exhibited in the British Museum, and it was thought that those employees were paid in beer. And apparently on that image, there are 3 little pictograms that represent the beer that they are being paid. So that was round 1, understanding your payslip. Before we go back to Alice, let's have a look at the anagram. Did anyone get this? I don't know if we've had any answers in the chat. Nope. I'll put you out of your misery. Alien enunciators. It's on your payslip. Was actually national insurance. So well done to anyone who got that anagram at home. So that's your first round. Let's bring Alice back, who's going to take us through round 2, HMRC submissions. Over to you.
Thank you, Duncan. So yes, next round, as Duncan said, is HMRC submissions. These are questions themed to Wednesday's session, which was our guide to submitting payroll to HMRC. So we'll move on straight on to question 6, and I'll launch that poll for you. And question 6 is, when did RTI become mandatory for employers operating a PAYE scheme? Was that 2007, 2010, 2013, or 2015? So when did RTI become mandatory for employers operating a PAYE scheme? And we will move on to question 7. So question number 7 is, when is the deadline to submit a full payment submission or an FPS? So when's the deadline to submit your FPS? Is it the day that the employee worked up to? Is it on or before the pay date? The last day of the tax month? Or the 19th of the following tax month? There we go. Great. And we will move on to question number 8, which is, which of these would you not submit an EPS for, or an employer payment summary? So which of these would you not submit an EPS for? Is it reclaiming statutory maternity pay, CIS deduction suffered, reclaiming statutory sick pay, or apprenticeship levy? So which of these would you not submit an employer payment summary for? Fab, and I'll close this one down. We'll move on to the second last question of the round, which is question 9. In which year was the PAYE scheme introduced? So in which year was the pay-as-you-earn scheme introduced? Was it 1984, 1954, 1964, or 1944? So that's which year was the PAYE scheme introduced? And move on to the last question of this round before we reveal the answers. So question 10. How much employment allowance can eligible employers claim each tax year? So how much employment allowance can eligible employers claim each tax year? Is it £1,000, £2,500, £3,700, or £5,000? Great, again, I'll close this one down. And we will go to the slides now. We'll have a look at the answers. But before we do have another anagram for this round, which is Dane's Deli. And the clue for this one is you have to meet them. So Dane's Deli. And again, same as the one before, I'll reveal this at the end of the answers. And if you do figure it out, just pop your answer into the chat and we'll see if you get it right. So let's move on to the answers then. We'll start with question number 6. I'll share those results and see what you all thought. So mixed answers here. We've got 4% saying 2007, 9% 2010. Most of you, 62%, said 2013, and 25% have said 2015. So the correct answer is 2013. So well done to most of you who got that right. So RTI did become mandatory then, followed a phased introduction to RTI, which began in April 2012. And by March 2013, over 6 million individual records were being reported in real time. And then a month later, in April 2013, that's when it became mandatory. So fast forward today, it is fully integrated into payroll processes. I can see those anagram answers coming into the chat as well, so well done. And we will move on to question 7 and share those results, see what you all thought. Which was, when's the deadline to submit a full payment submission? So most of you, 85% of you, have said on or before the pay date. We may as well just reveal if that is correct, which it is, so well done. You do need to send the FPS each time you pay your employees, just to notify HMRC of those liabilities in the payment period. Any employees that you pay must be included. And yes, on or before the pay date. So if you paid weekly and you paid every Friday, for example, you would need to make sure that you've submitted the FPS on or before every Friday. So question number 8, we'll see what you all thought with that one. And it was, which of these would you not submit an EPS for? So 23% have said CIS deductions suffered. 69% of you have said reclaiming statutory sick pay, and 8% have said apprenticeship levy. So a little bit of a mixed answer there. But the correct answer is reclaiming statutory sick pay. So well done. This was a little bit of a trick question, really. So you did used to be able to reclaim it, but since the 6th of April 2014, this actually stopped. So SSP is now funded by the employer, but you can reclaim SMP, SPP, and other parental payments by sending an EPS. You can actually reclaim CIS deductions and apprenticeship levy as well. And we will move on to question number 9, second last question in the round. Looks like a lot of you attended the webinar. So 57% of you said 1944. And if we just go straight ahead to reveal that answer, you are correct. So it was 1944. So that was when the PAYE scheme was introduced. This was to streamline the collection of income tax and do it directly from employees' wages. So before this, tax wasn't paid as regularly, only a few times a year really, and people did need to complete an annual assessment too. So 1944 was the start of the pay-as-you-earn system. And question number 10, let's see what you thought there. So 83% of you have said £5,000, 8% 3,700, 4% 2,500, and 5% £1,000. And let's reveal what the correct answer is. So 83% of you got that right. So it is £5,000. Well done to those of you who got that right. So employment allowance is something that you can claim if you're an eligible employer. And if you're eligible, this will mean that your employer's Class 1 national insurance contributions were less than £100,000 in the tax year prior to the one that you're applying in. So if that's the case, you are eligible and you can apply for it and claim it at any time in the tax year. There's not really a deadline for this, but obviously the earlier that you do so, the earlier that you'll get that allowance of £5,000. And lastly, before I do pass back to Duncan, let's reveal the anagram. So I've seen a lot of the answers in the chat. It looks like a lot of you have got that. But Dane's Deli, clue was you have to meet them, is deadlines. So well done. A lot of you got that right. But yeah, let's move on to the third and final round. And for that, I will pass you back to Duncan. So it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Alice. So we are now swiftly on to round 3, all around our session yesterday on parental payments. So 5 questions in this round, special question at the end for you. But we will start with question 11, which I will pop on your screen now. So question 11, what percentage of SMP can most employers reclaim? So what percentage of statutory maternity pay can most employers reclaim? Is it 80%, 85%, 92%, or 100%? So like before, choose your answer and submit that through. We're not going to give you too long for this. On to question 12 then. Question 12 is, how many weeks before the expected week of childbirth is the qualifying week? So that is an important week when it comes to statutory parental payments, not just maternity, but paternity as well. How many weeks before the due date, the expected week of childbirth, is that qualifying week? Is it 20 weeks before? Is it 15 weeks before? Is it 10 weeks before the due date? Or could it be 12 weeks? Everybody vote now. Okay, last few seconds on that question. And we will move on to question 13. So how many keeping in touch days or KIT days are allowed during maternity leave? How many KIT days are allowed during maternity leave? Is it 5 days? Is it 15? Is it 20 days? Or is it 10 KIT days? And that was question 13. On to question 14, so the penultimate question of this round. So this one is, what's the standard rate of SMP after the first 6 weeks? So what is the standard rate of SMP after the first 6 weeks? Is it £116.75 per week? Is it £184.03 per week? Is it £200 per week? Or is it £123 per week? So a few of those answers might be familiar, but which one is the correct one? What's the standard rate of SMP after the first 6 weeks? Last few seconds on that question. And we'll close that one down. So one more question, last question of the quiz today. Bit of a fun one, this one. So question 15, what is Alice and I's combined age? So what is the combined age of Alice and Duncan from the payroll webinars? Are we collectively 50 years old? Are we 58? Is our combined age 68? Or are we 75? I think we've taken a bit of a risk on this one, but we'll see what you think. So last 10 seconds to have a guess at this one. What is our combined age? We're going to close that one down. Great. So we're ready to go through the answers for round 3. But before we do that, we have our final anagram round. So the anagram for round 3 is net parity. And the clue for that anagram is it takes 2 to tango. So net parity, it takes 2 to tango. Answers in the chat if you want to tell us if you've got it. And we'll tell you the answer to that anagram after the answers to round 3. So for question 11, we asked you, what percentage of SMP can most employers reclaim? Let's have a look at your responses to that question. So we had a good answer here, 90% of you said 92%. It's very confusing, these percentages. Let's take a look and see whether that was the correct answer. It was indeed. 92% is the amount that most employers would reclaim for SMP and any other statutory parental payment. If the employer qualifies for small employers relief, they'd actually get 103%, but we didn't put that as an answer, again, to avoid confusions. And I would say that most employers are not qualifying for small employers relief. So your answer there is 92%. On to question 12 then. How many weeks before the expected week of childbirth is the qualifying week? So a bit of a split here. We had 10% saying 12 weeks before the due date, 6% saying 20 weeks, 1% saying 10 weeks. 83% of you are saying the qualifying week is 15 weeks before the due date. So did you get that one right? Let's have a look. It was indeed 15 weeks. So really important date, the qualifying week. It's used in the calculation of average earnings when it comes to calculating the higher rate of maternity pay or checking if an employee qualifies. And also it's the date that you need to give notice by of your intention to take the parental leave. So yeah, 15 weeks is your qualifying week. Next question was how many keeping in touch days or KIT days are allowed during maternity leave? And it's the same answer for adoption leave as well. Let's see what you said. So most popular answer there was 10 days. 85% of you think there are 10 KIT days that can be taken without ending maternity leave or statutory pay entitlements. Were you 85% correct? Let's have a look. You certainly were. It is 10 days for keeping in touch. And if they had chosen, if the couple has chosen to end their maternity or adoption leave and switch to shared parental leave and pay, they would then get a further 20 split days, which stands for shared parental leave in touch days. So they would get that kind of in addition to any KIT days that they might have had. So we talked about shared parental leave in the webinar yesterday afternoon. So penultimate question, question 14, what is the standard rate of SMP after the first 6 weeks? Let's see what you thought. So 88% of you, I think that's £184.03 per week. 8% saying £123 a week, 4% £116.75. Let's see whether you were right. So the correct answer to this one is £184.03 per week. It's 90% of average weekly earnings, technically, if that's a lower amount, but that's the standard rate in the legislation. Some of the other answers that might have caught you out, £116.75 is the statutory sick pay rate for the current tax year, and £123 is the lower earnings limit. So that's the minimum average weekly earnings that you need to qualify for the payment. But the standard rate was £184.03. And on to this last question, just for fun, what is Alice and Duncan's combined age? Let's have a look at what you thought. Okay, so we've got some flattering answers there, which is nice. 4% of you think that we are 50 years old between us. 36% are saying 58. 49% of you think we are 68. And 11% of you are saying 75. Let's have a look at who got that answer right. The correct answer is 68. So big thank you to those that went with answers A or B. We're not going to tell you the split. I'll leave you to figure that one out. But that is our combined age. So all that really remains is our final anagram, and looking in the chat, I think lots of you have got this one. So net parity. The clue was it takes two to tango. The answer, of course, is paternity. And that concludes round 3, and that brings us to the end of the quiz. So I'm going to hand over to Alice just to wrap things up. Over to you, Alice.
Thank you so much, Duncan. Yeah, so as Duncan said, that does conclude the quiz. I just want to say well done to you all. Massive thank you to everyone who's participated today and joined us for National Payroll Week. It has been a lot of fun to celebrate all of you. And remember, for those of you who have attended at least three of them, the three of the webinars this week, you will be receiving your very own National Payroll Week digital badge very soon, or if not by the end of this month. And those of you who are participating today, again, you are in a prize draw to win a hamper, and the winners will be drawn and contacted sometime next week for that. So National Payroll Week is over in terms of webinars, but we do still have upcoming webinars. So for our Sage 50 payroll customers, here's what we've got planned for September. So we've got Sick Pay Made Simple. We've got maternity and paternity pay. These are going to go through a bit more of like the entitlement and eligibility, as well as how to process it in the programme as well. We've got shared parental pay, pensions, the basics, and mastering mistakes as well. So that's going to be going over things like error corrections, things like the rollback process as well. We've also got the Sage Help Centre as well. So sage.co.uk/help. If you see any of our linked articles and things in the slides that we present with, all of those have come from the Help Centre. It is a really, really handy resource. We use it ourselves as well. Great for support guides, demonstration videos that you might need, and also to get in touch as well. So if you do need any technical support, you can get in touch with us that way. We've also got Sage University, sageu.com, so you can set up a completely free account here, access free e-learning courses, bite-sized learning as well, and also earn product certification. So it is just a really great way to expand your knowledge, and that's not just on Sage 50 Payroll, that is across loads of different Sage products as well. But that has brought us to the end of the webinar, so thank you very much for your time this morning. If you are leaving us now, feel free to copy any of those earlier questions in the chat if you do want to keep any of those. But last ask from us, there is going to be a short survey that you'll get as you exit the webinar. If you have just a moment to fill that out, we would really, really appreciate it. Hopefully you have enjoyed National Payroll Week and the webinars that we've been putting on for you. And the recordings from this week's webinars will be available on the Help Centre shortly. So I don't think we do have many questions left to answer, but we are going to go on mute just for a few moments to just double check them. And if there are any, of course, get those remaining answers out. So we'll be a few moments and then we will come back to say goodbye. Hello everyone, that is us back again. It looks like we have answered most of those questions, and thank you to all of the thank yous coming through as well. That is really nice to see. So, but yeah, that does bring us to an end for today. So keep an eye on your emails for a recording of the webinar coming through. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully we will see you on another webinar very soon. We've got lots coming up in September. But on behalf of me, Duncan, and our payroll team, we will see you next time. It's goodbye for now.